Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Bread for Soul Convos, and thank you for joining. And I just wanted to say for those who have just joined in, if it's the first time watching these conversations, this is a show and platform where we share knowledge and experiences. You know, I chat to various music industry experts and colleagues, and we do this just because we want to share the knowledge. And I mainly do this because I don't want people to be failing because of lack of information. I think if you should be failing at your career, it should be because of your lack of hard work or other things, but not because you don't get the information or you don't know the know-hows. So I'm very grateful that this morning I am chatting to Katlego Malatji, who is a lawyer and is also, he's a lawyer, he's a director at Tailor Made Legal Solutions. He's also the CEO of Homecoming Events. And Homecoming Events basically started in 2008. Katlego did his LLB at the University of Pretoria, graduated 2011, and worked at Adams and Adams, and founded Tailor Made Legal Solutions. And I'm more than honored to be chatting to you, bro. How are you, Katlego? How's it, bro?
Morning, Les. How are you? Thank you so much for having me. Very honored to be here this morning.
Thank you so much, bro, for doing this. I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. I read somewhere where it said that you believe that while money and recognition are part of the packages or part of the package for a successful business, but the values and principles that ground you are most important. And do you want to share anything with that? I found it so powerful.
No, I think that's been more of my own way of keeping myself sort of grounded and focused on the work that we do because it's quite easy to get distracted. There's a lot of money in our industry that moves a lot of different ways, and people, tend to begin to chase that and they forget um, why it is they do what they do, and they tend to lose themselves along the way. So, for me, the fame and all that kind of stuff, you need to constantly remind yourself not to get carried away by that because it's all fleeting
Sure,
and it's
sure.
actually destructive.
I found that powerful, my brother, because sometimes I believe that we sometimes overvalue the money aspect and leaving out the most important, aspects of whether it's a business or it's a career. You know what I mean? If you
Yeah.
don't mind, because I can see the volume, I think your level is a bit low. If you don't mind speaking up a bit, nah?
Okay, dokes.
Okay,
Let me
bro.
do that.
And
Also get this.
cool. I wa- I wanted to say to people that talking about music law and contracts, the reason, guys, we need to know someone or at least consult with someone with regards to contracts. Yes, you can look, you can read contracts on your own, but you might not be able to understand something like domicilium sitandi et executandi. Why do you lawyers and legal people use this language where you just could have said your address?
Look, one of the main things around entertainment law is sort of trying to fast track the plain legal language movement,
Mm.
where we say to people, look, it doesn't need to be so complex. Like let's put it in layman's terms. But obviously the history of the law with Latin and the Roman Dutch law and everything, there's a lot of verbose use of words, and yeah, it's always quite interesting. But it's quite funny that the stuff that stresses people like domicilium is the stuff that's immaterial. That's just your address.
Yeah,
The stuff that really should be worrying you is oftentimes in very plain language there, but nobody's paying attention.
yeah, yeah. And so if we can just get to the basics of the different types of copyrights that exist in a piece of music. If you can go through those.
So, and I think it'll probably be a lot more useful for us to sort of, for it sort of guide me in terms of the kind of people we're speaking to. I was speaking to DJs, producers, because a copyright, so copyright is your intellectual property in the work, and it sort of vests automatically whether you've written a song. If you've written a song and you've reduced that writing to words, that's your copyright. If you've produced a beat and you've reduced that beat to a specific recordable format, that's your copyright. If you have written the music, written the actual notes and the chords, that's your copyright contribution. If you have sung on the song, you that's your copyright contribution. So there's various aspects where everybody contributes to the making of a song, and their contribution, once reduced to some tangible form, is their copyright. And that obviously comes with certain legal entitlements, to the publishing, to um, royalties in the song, and the likes.
Yeah.
So I prefer every time I speak entertainment, I always prefer to speak about it as practically as possible, so that it's relatable to somebody who's actually making a song, or somebody who can see where they fit into that puzzle.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
and thank you for that, because I also would like to put that in as plain terms as possible so that people can understand. So, if here's a producer, they've done a beat and they've recorded vocals on the song. Um, where should they be starting to go about making sure that their legalities are sorted with regards to the song?
So let me start with the default breakdown of ownership or entitlement around a song. So let's look at it as one song. So it's a song. We now record a song. The song is split into two 50%. So 50% of that song is the master right. And the master right is owned by the person who would have paid for the song to make. So if I come into your studio and I pay for studio time and pay for the producers, whatever, commission for the song to be made, I don't need to participate in that song. I own the master right because I've paid for it. I've commissioned the work to be done. Um, so that would usually be your record label and whoever's paying for it. So if I'm an independent, I own my own master rights. If I pay for the studio time and everything. Then the other 50% is the publishing. Now the publishing is where we deal with the copyright, and that's split into two. So that's a further 25%. 25% is the composition. So composition is what we would modernly refer to as the producer. So the guys that are making the actual music, they are composing the music. And then the other 25% is the author.
Mm.
So the author is where your songwriters and the actual artists, because oftentimes what people would do is they would buy the lyrics or pay the songwriter, and then get the entitlement to the authorship and the copyright and the publishing. So that's how a song is set up by default. But now obviously people are able to negotiate um those splits. So those are sort of default positions, but somebody can say, I'm going to take, I want to share in the master. I might not have paid for it, but I'm the biggest artist in the world and I'm doing you a favor and I want a share of the master, or whatever the case may be. So it's all very negotiable. What I always say to people is you need to keep a sort of a one-pager deed of assignment, where literally when you record music, once you guys are done, just to sort of sign, say who contributed what, or how are we splitting the song. Because what we find in South Africa a lot is that people go into the studio and it's fun and games, and you know one way one groovy, and we all friends apparently, and somebody takes that song, that project, runs with it, pushes it out, and it starts generating lots of money, and now we have to come back retrospectively and want to break down, and that's when people change. One night, like I might have said that night I get that 5%. Now it's the number one song in the country,
Yeah.
and Motosanyaga, 50%.
Yeah.
So it's important to really get those agreements in place. It doesn't even need to be a contract per se, just a basic agreement. Who owns the song, who produced it, who's the authors, are we agreed on that, what percentage splits, and let that.
Sure. And I just want to say to people, if you're watching on Facebook, if you do have any questions that you want us you'd like Katlego to touch on some topics regarding legalities and music, please type the questions in the comments. I'm watching the comments on the Sir LSG page as well as the Best Beats page. So I wanted to get into a question of now, if you have a couple of songs, you've got different rights and copyrights in those songs, and you want to make an album. So you've got, let's say, 10 songs, and you want to now release these songs on a label. What are those agreements looking like with regards to releasing music on somebody else's music label?
So maybe just run that question by me again. I just want to make sure I understand it
Yeah.
correctly.
So if somebody wants to release an album and they've got about 10 songs, and
Sure.
they want to release this album on a label, so what are those what how are those agreements looking like with regards to releasing music on another label?
So and this is where, so copyright, in its nature, the only way you can cede copyright, the only way you can share, utilize, make use of copyright is through writing. Copyright is only ceded through writing. And what happens is people would then cede their rights via contract to you to allow you to. So when you sign your agreements, your contracts with featured artists, featured producers on the actual songs, you'll find that it's always important that there be a clause that gives you the permission. So along with the cession of the right to use the copyright in the actual song, there must then be a further cession, a further permission for you to be able to utilize that song on an album. How in whichever way you guys agree on it. So what would then happen is when you then meet up with a label and say, okay, I need you to release my album, they'll say, okay, cool, bring us all the featured artist agreements, bring us all the producer agreements, so that we then make sure that you've got the right and entitlement to release this music on an album on your own. Then you then get into a agreement with the record label. So then me as LSG, somebody with the legal entitlement to release the music, which all these other people feature on, who has an entitlement to this copyright for usage in an album. I then get into a contract with you, record label, saying, let's work. I have the necessary permission.
So before you carry on, I just wanted to clarify that. So what exactly you mean is that if I'm making music and I've got collaborations with different artists, what I need to do is in my contracts with those artists, within my contract, I need to state that they are giving me permission to use this copyright and use it, whether it's for an album, whether it's giving it to a label, or whether it's giving it to an advert, but they are giving me the permission to use their rights within our agreement for further exploitation, if I may put it like that.
100%.
Cool.
So there must be that agreement that you've got the right to utilize it, not only for the release of a single, but that I can use it on an album.
Cool. And then what are the kind of different deals that artists would have with a label with regards to releasing an album?
So I mean, there's numerous deals, and I guess the catchword currently is 360. Yes, because I not 360, man. Um,
Yeah.
but you know, 360 is really just a term that encompasses almost a full offering of what an artist can exploit, which then the label would do for them. So it goes from, you know, your recording agreements where you come in as a recording artist, and the record label would then pay for your music to be recorded. They'd pay for your album. They'd take care of the musical side, and you know they then help you to release it that way. There's publishing agreements where and most record labels you do that through a subdivision. So that's why you always find a subdivision where all they deal with is the publisher. So you take care of all your music, and then what they do is they assist you with collecting and dealing with the exploitation of the copyright. There's the management agreement where then label comes in and actually manages you as a brand, as an artist. There's live, you know, sometimes live is then mixed up with the management. So live is your bookings,
Mm.
where a label can take over your bookings at a percentage split. There's merchandising, there's
Mm.
licensing. So where you say, okay, look, this is my this is my music. I own it. I'm not ceding the ownership of the master, but I'm just licensing it to you for a period because I believe you can make it bigger. You know, you can utilize your marketing or whatever to make the song or this album bigger. So there's this various and I call them objectives because every time I sit down with the client, I say, "What's your objective? What are you looking to get out of this?" Because when we look at your contracts, we have to look at them as your objectives. So there's guys who are saying, "Look, I'm hot media wise, social media wise. I've got bookings, I've got gigs, but my music is not getting big, or I'm not working with the right producers or the right artists I need." So it's like, okay, cool. Do we need a recording agreement? Okay, you good with you bad with the live, you bad with the social media. Do you need a management agreement for guys to fix up your brand? And then there's obviously guys who then sign the full 360. You say, you know what, you can take care of everything, but you know, let's negotiate the percentages like this. So yeah, that's just those are the various facets.
Bruh, just from your answer, it also gives me chills because I can imagine for somebody who does not know the basic of copyrights in the music industry, and here's somebody who's a hot artist and they just want to see themselves out there, you know, and they would be getting into agreements without having, you know, a clarity as to why they're getting into those agreements and what to expect from those agreements as well. But thank you for sharing that. I wanted to ask you, because the music scene has been, you know, changing, it's ever changing, but like in recent years we've seen such a decline in music sales, whether it's physical, even digital now. And now music, there's a lot of streaming now services which are further declining the actual sale of units. But I mean, streaming does is counted as sales at some point to a certain extent. But I want to ask you, do you think right now is the time to the music industry at large, the time to change some of the contracts, the way we've been doing contracts? Because we've been doing contracts like as sales based, you know, like this is the percentage
100%.
that you're getting, and because we were selling this much units, but we're not selling that many units now. Is this a time review those kind of contracts?
I think that's really why we named our company what we did, tailor-made legal solutions. The way the game is set up currently, everything needs to be tailored accordingly. So the years and the days of the default agreement are way past us. There's so much room to maneuver, and there's so much need for room to maneuver because Objectives are no longer the same. Career trajectories are no longer the same. Capabilities on both sides. So even what labels used to be able to offer and guarantee in the past is no longer necessarily the case, and they're needing to reinvent and refigure out what they can and they can't put on the table. And that's why we're trying to normalize the whole give let's sit down and talk about it. Give us your agreement. Let's strike out some things. Let's track some changes, and let's tailor the agreements accordingly. I did a deal recently where a label was paying a certain amount of money for some product, and then there was a an incentive bonus on streams. If you reach X number of streams, this is how we want to incentivize. And you have to put in such clauses because those are our KPIs. Nobody knows if those numbers are necessarily reachable in South Africa. But if I do reach them, then I must be able to be compensated for it. And it's so important to have that outlook and that approach to how you deal with your music contracts.
Sure, yeah, bro, that is so powerful. It's actually making me more excited now because I've been just like, I mean, the music industry has to evolve. We need to move on with the times. And there's
Yeah.
another copyright issue that I wanted to ask you about, but I also see Brino Soul on the Best Beats page. He asks the same question, and it's about live streaming. So since the beginning of lockdown, we have seen a spike in live streams. I mean, like this one right here, but we've seen a spike in a lot of music live streams, which DJs playing sets and streaming DJ sets, and most of the time, obviously playing other people's music, like generally how DJs would do at clubs. What is the issue really with the copyright and music being muted while you're playing a popular song that's on a major or something like that with regards to streaming?
So you see, that's how people are able to protect you. So that's there's almost like a new age piracy as well that's going on, which is made a lot easier with the ability to rip music from the internet and utilize it. So for argument's sake, if you had a sponsor for this show
Which I
and you
hope
were
I'll be getting
making,
soon.
I mean, I hope so too. It's a great platform.
Thank you.
And your sponsor's giving you, let's call it, we're putting it into the universe, 500,000 Rand an episode, right? And you're playing somebody else's music on the show, which gets people going for the show. Legally, they're entitled to getting their spin time for that music. You should be paying them their royalties because you're utilizing their music in an economic manner, and for economic gain. And that's why then you get those interruptions and you get music being ripped and or rather pulled off because this is the new age of monetization. This is how people are going to utilize. So with the live streams and everything, even there. So when you look at Sampra, for argument's sake, um, and I mean, I've been trying to speak to artists about Sampra and Capasso and these collection societies for a while, and nobody really took it serious. But now they have to take it seriously because where the music is played and how how collection is done on those music makes or breaks a lot of artists now, because you can't gig, you can't perform, and you can't drop an album every week. So it's so important that people also join these collection societies, and also get publishers to go out there and actively and proactively, even at shows, festivals, um, online streaming, to go and collect their cents, because the cents make rands, and that's the new age of monetization in the music space.
So if I'm not monetizing and I'm a DJ, um, just streaming on my Facebook, and I just want people to check my page. There is no money. There is no one making money out of it. I'm not if anything, I'm exposing the music to more listenerships. How is there a license? Is there a fee? Or how can we work around something like this?
I mean, on the non-monetization front, and I'm going to need to refresh my own memory, but I recall you a few years back, all you had to do was credit. You roll out your credits, but it's getting a lot stricter now, I guess, because guys aren't certain. It's difficult to determine what you're using the money for. So I think everybody's trying to find their footing around the fair use of the music. So it's a lot different when this is a post episode, and it's not live and it's put up, and you can then challenge it and say, look, please unblock my video because this is the fair use situation in which the copyright was being utilized. But it's a lot trickier, especially with live. Like with Instagram Live, I know they'll also catch you and pause you because it's difficult to determine on the go what you're utilizing the music for.
I think Instagram is the worst because they give you one warning. After that, they stop the stream. They don't even like mute the
Yeah,
audio or anything. They just simply stop the stream. I mean,
yeah,
I guess it's an interesting time that we live in because nobody has the answers to this, and I think like everybody's trying to find some footing into this new world that we are living in with regards to music usage. And I wanted to say, I mean, like YouTube, for example, if I upload something on YouTube, or if I play it live, they will after the stream they will say you cannot monetize this at all. Firstly
yeah,
because of certain copyrights, but you can dispute that and say fair use, whatever. But I think
100%.
Facebook has not yet gotten to that point, and they need to be fast on it. I think because at the moment Facebook is where most people are streaming, especially DJs. I really hope that if you're watching this, guys, like, please understand, it's not because Facebook has something against you. It's just that the copyrights and copyright laws, the way things are right now, nobody really has the answers with regards to how we can deal with such a thing, especially when we're not making money off it. Um, Katlego, I wanted to get to. Let me just go through a question here to make most of it in the actual performance. Oh yeah, I wanted to ask you that just taking you back a bit to the 360 deals. Do you think that this there will be an increase now, like with performances kind of dying down? We don't know when performances are gonna come back up. Do you believe that the new music law, music contracts will have something to do with include something to do with streaming and online performances if we do find a way to monetize online performances?
Definitely. Definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. And I think it's going to be a blanket cover. But you'll also notice something that pops up in a lot of these contracts is where they speak about and any other format yet to be discovered. So that's where people, are anticipating to say it's such a rapidly changing, it's so fast changing this industry that you almost have to protect your interests in an unknown format because chances are we're going there. So it's any form of distribution of music, any form of utilization, monetization, exploitation. So, but you then see it come across a lot more formally in contracts moving forward because everybody's now seeing the gaps of opportunities and now they must move to protect them.
Yeah, yeah, sure thing. I wanted to get to publishing, and I want to ask you: Do you think, do you believe that signing a publishing deal, as opposed to handling your own publishing, like what are your views with regards to that?
So I always ask the question, and I mean, a lot of the clients I've worked with have had publishers, so I've never really had to get into much of a tussle around publishing. But I always say to guys around publishing, because people say, I'll just get a publishing administrator, I'll do my own publishing. And I ask the question, do you have the time? do you have the knowledge, and do you have the dedication? Because it's a much with a lot of things. Label doesn't, because they're able to put teams behind and dedicate technology, infrastructure, human resource, finance to doing certain things. So, with regards to publishing, I would say to people, there's the do you have the time and the discipline to do it yourself, which most artists don't. Guys are always making music, and if they're not making music, they're performing.
Mm.
And if they're not performing it, then they're living their life.
Yeah.
Like there's no real time for that. And I always discourage it on that basis. Um, but there's also the income generation potential of
Mm.
being with the publisher, because it's the publishers that are out on a daily basis looking for the sync deals, looking for the opportunities to plug the music, looking for collaborative opportunities, and that becomes their value.
Mm.
Where I've seen a lot of guys get. I mean, I've got some clients who get randomly anything between 20 to 80,000 rand a month, in random agreements that the publisher is pushing for, because the publisher is also trying to make money. And I think that's the part I always say to guys: you want to work with people who have a vested financial interest
Mm.
in something going well for you. So your publisher has a vested financial interest in making sure that all your collections are done, in making sure that your music is more exploited. So I always encourage people to find a publisher and then negotiate a good deal with the publisher.
Mm. Bruh, like that is so powerful, because what you just said to me is like, if you would you rather have a a small amount of nothing,
Mm.
I mean a big amount of
Or a big
nothing,
amount of
a big
nothing. Yeah,
amount of nothing, or or a fair amount of a big thing.
of a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And but
yeah.
tell me, with regards to publishing deals, then, do they also have a period of time that you can say you are publishing this music from this year to this year, and after this year the publishing comes back to me?
100%. And I always lock down the term. I always try to cut down the term as short as possible. 3 years is my favorite year, is my favorite term duration to go for. Cut down the term, cut down all sort of additional periods and sell-off periods and all of that, and just limit. And that's what you want to do with the publishing agreement, is you want to limit um, the publisher in as far as you can, while still making it lucrative and worth their while to do the publishing. And of course, your music must bang so that they have something
Yeah,
to work with.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And then I want to ask you that about the if once the period has lapsed with regards to a publishing agreement on a certain song, does now this song have to be re-registered with various royalty collection societies for with the new information?
Yes, yes. So it has to be updated.
Mm,
So you obviously just update to the publisher.
yeah, I hear you. Nah, I
Yeah.
hear you loud and clear, bro. What are the some of the? I mean, people are afraid of signing publishing. I mean, I'm afraid. I don't even know why I'm afraid. No, but why are we so cautious with regards to publishing deals? What are the things that you've seen that have gone wrong for artists in publishing deals?
So, like I've said, I haven't really encountered a lot of bad things in publishing, but generally, the sentiment that you address is across the board in as far as contracting in general in South African music. People are just scared of contracting. They just don't like it. And there's with the new age artists, the new generation that's coming up, there's a wild obsession with independence.
Mm,
Everybody's all about being independent. It goes back to the point we were making a few moments ago, where I think there's a failure to, and because people don't research the music industry, perhaps let me start there. So because people don't research the music industry, they don't understand how it operates. Then they make a lot of emotional and social decisions on the business. Sorry, just 1 second, LSG.
No
We're
worries,
in
bro.
we're in court this morning. Um, just 1 second. I just need to let my attorney know that I'll get back to him. I've got
Okay, no worries, no worries.
a time. All right. So what we are now facing is that a lot of people are so this whole independence, and I'm going to do things my own way, and I push this my own way. But it's a failure of understanding the game and yourself and where you stand in the game. Because there's artists who you look at who sign and say, look, I'm going to sign. I always use the J. Cole example. J. Cole realized I'm a fantastic rapper. I'm an awesome rapper. If I don't sign to Jay-Z, if I don't sign to Rock Nation, this is not going anywhere.
Hmm.
You understand? So people need to understand their careers in relation to signing, and that's what will tell you should I be signing publishing or not. So somebody's saying, look, I've got the infrastructure, I've got the team to do the publishing. Then sure, don't do the publishing. If you've got you're out there, especially you guys in house, for argument's sake, the guys in house music, this music plays so much and is utilized so much internationally, overseas, in Europe. And some of the publishing deals, the bigger publishing deals I've done in the house music space are with international publishers because that music is being used for things you couldn't even begin
Hmm.
to imagine, and you'd be in no position to collect on it or check on it. So it's very big on understanding yourself and your career,
Hmm.
and then making your decisions based on that.
Sure, sure. Nah, I heard that loud and clear. I hope that guys at home that you do have an insight to how you can go about doing your publishing or at least thinking about it. I just have two more questions before we close, Katlego. What's the legal way of clearing samples?
So the legal way of clearing samples, sorry, is to write to the copyright owner, either through their record label or their publisher, um, whoever's managing the copyright for them,
Hmm.
to request permission to utilize the sample. That's really just the easiest way that saves everybody time, trouble,
Hmm.
frustration.
Sure,
Mm.
sure. And then, where can people get a hold of your company, the Tailor Made Legal Solutions?
So we've gone offline in a strange way. So what we found when we started this LSG a few years back was that guys hated the website. They hated it to be known like the artists. They didn't want they wanted to feel like you work for them alone. Like so it's like Joe na mara wena spanela LSG or what's LSG di pirita. So we've taken down our website, we've taken down all our social media,
Mm.
but I'll give you my email address,
Okay.
and you can reach us out at you can hit me up on Malatji Malatji
Yeah.
at tailormadelaw.co.za.
TailorMadeLaw.co.za. So it's a Malachi at tailormadelaw.co.za if somebody wants to
Yes, sir.
connect with you. Just one last question. If you had the power and to change or influence any area in the South African music industry, what would you change? Which area and what would you change about it?
If I had the power to change any area in the industry, which one would it be?
Yeah.
I would change black artists' relationship with their outlook on their art from a professional perspective. I'd really change that and get people to really understand what a big potential business them and their craft are, and really invest in professionalizing so that they can grow and exploit. I think people really need to look at this less as a we're having a good time and as a we can build for a very long time if we set up the right structures around us, accounting, legal, um, strategy, towards.
Sure, bro. Thank you so much. I know you gotta run. I'll just close the show, but I just wanted to say thank you for your time. Thank you for your knowledge and for sharing your knowledge as well, bro. We're gonna do another part two, right? Just to talk about homecoming
Um,
events.
yeah. No worries at all. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the platform and sharing with people, sharing information, sharing knowledge. Is the kind of bread we should be sharing. So thank
Thank
you. I
you, brother.
appreciate this.
Thank you, brother. Cheers, man.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Hola, you too. So yeah, everyone. I hope you got some info, some valuable information, especially with regards to copyright, publishing, and just the way we should be looking at our music as a business. And I'm glad that he also mentioned. I was asking about samples because tomorrow I'll be chatting to Nick Holder, the legendary Nick Holder, Summer Days, and more songs, who's got a story with regards to clearing samples. And please tune in tomorrow at 9 a.m. And yeah, another thing, I've got these sweaters. This is feed the music part of your soul. I know it's like it's not mirrored well, but like yeah, that's what it says. Feed the music part of your soul. This is the second design, but we've got the normal Bread for Soul design as well. You can order, send an email to breadforsoulmerch@gmail.com to place an order. You'll get prices when we respond on email. But yeah, thank you so much for watching these sessions and thank you for tuning in. Share, please comment as well with tag somebody who could learn from these sessions, and share to as many people as possible, guys. Let's keep on creating. Let's keep on being creative basically. Uh, and we are done. Peace out. Done. Peace out.